Welcome, everybody. It is time for Unfiltered Live, another episode of the show. Every Thursday at 1 p.m., we are going live unfiltered to answer your questions, bring insights for the modern entrepreneur, whether you're doing info business, coaching, consulting, that type of business, or you're doing another type of business. Could be an e-com business, could be a service business of some sort. Sinclair is your friend, and Unfiltered Live is the place where you go to get answers to your questions so that we set you up for success. And we're talking a lot about the inner game of entrepreneurship. There's a strategy, there's the marketing, there are all sort of the outer things that we do, the tactics, all the things that we do to get there. But what's more important in most cases, is the inner work, is how do you see it yourself? What is your identity in your mind? It is your mindset, the mental game, the emotional game, right? We're all get stuck on our emotions on some level, and we all do what we do because we want to feel certain things. And the spiritual game, like finding meaning and purpose. So there's always going to be, for you to get where you want to go in life, in business, in any area, you're going to have to grow and evolve. And there's going to be obstacles and challenges and difficulties on that path. So how do you do that and maintain that sense of inner drive? Your drive has to come from inside. It can't come from the results, the acknowledgement of other people, any of those things. It has to come from inside. Your meaning, your sense of purpose and direction and what matters to you, that has to come from the inside. So those are the kinds of things that we discuss here on Unfiltered Live, and we are here to take your questions. So a couple of things that are top of mind for me this week is I've been thinking a lot about, I think it's relevant to you guys probably as well, this notion of sticking with what's familiar or easy versus what is not so familiar or easy, what kind of stretches us, but is necessary, right? I think a lot of us, for me, what's easy and natural and familiar is product. Like, I've been doing software my entire life. When I was a kid, I remember one time we went to Norway on a vacation, and we were on an airplane flying to Norway, and it was super fancy. Like, one of the first times I was flying, and I wasn't that old. I'm maybe like 8 or 10. I was young enough that the stewardess brought some crayons and pencils and paper for me and my brother, as like to keep us entertained on the flight. And it was back when they did that sort of thing. And what did I do? I started sketching software user interfaces on that paper. That's how nerdy I was. That's how crazy I was. So I've literally been doing software my entire life. And now that I've taken over running product and engineering for Simplero a few months ago, it's great. I'm loving it. We're making tons of progress. But it's also, and it's been really good for me to go in and spend a lot of time on that because I've been away from it for a while. But it's also then easy for me to get stuck in that place and keep doing more product, more, design, more engineering, and working with the product engineering teams, and making the product better, which obviously is the foundation of our business, right? Without a great product, there is no business. But it's also, we have a great product already, and I'm very, very good at seeing how it could be better, what could be better about it. And I get very impatient about that. Like, I want it to be fantastic, like everything that I envision that it could be. I want that right now. And so it's easy. It would be cool. It's easy for me to get stuck in that place of just doing product. I'm good at it. It's easy. There's a lot of stuff that I'm definitely the best person to do, and probably the only person at this point in the organization who can really do it. But right, we need to do other things. There's hiring. There is marketing, which is very important. And we've been neglecting marketing for our entire existence, more or less. Tried a bunch of things, mainly unsuccessfully. I'll return to that thought in a second. Just finishing the first thought. So the idea is for all of us, I think for a lot of you guys, like maybe you're really good at coaching or leading retreats or workshops or doing deep transformational work with people or teaching them how to do marketing or business, like all these different things. And that's amazing, but it's so important that you're also focusing on building the business, right? On doing the marketing, on acquiring the customers, on building the systems and processes, on hiring, on doing branding or whatever it is. There's a bunch of other things that need to happen that you as the business owner need to be the one doing or at least leading. And it's very, very easy for all of us to fall back on what we're good at and what we're familiar with. So that was the first theme. Let me know in the chat if that is applicable to you, if that resonates with you. If you experience yourself doing that, like, more of what's normal and familiar. Yeah. All right. Cool. That's good. I like to see that. It's cool. Great. So following on from that, so in terms of, yes, John is saying on work on your business, not in your business, right? Exactly right. And there's a third level to that, which is working on yourself, growing yourself, right? So we can work in the business, doing the things of the business. We can work on the business where we create the systems and the processes and the build the teams and all of that so that they can do the business, they can work in the business, you work on the business. And then there's a part where we work on ourselves and our own mental, emotional, physical, spiritual maturity so that we are able to do the work on the business even more effectively. So yeah, that is great. So in terms of marketing, like I was saying before, we have basically not been doing much of any marketing for a long time. And I've had all kinds of attitudes about it. Like, for a while I was like, oh, Facebook is terrible and I hate Facebook. And it's like, sure it is, but it's where people's attention is, or like, replace Facebook with any social media platform, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, um, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. They're all to some level terrible, and they can all be terrible time sucks. And there's all kinds of like unhealthy garbage stuff happening there, but it's where people's attention are, right? It's where people focus, and it's where you find the people, as well as obviously Google's universe, and YouTube, which is also sort of a social media platform. So it's like, sure, that may be true, and I can have whatever opinions about it I want, but that doesn't change the fact that if you want to acquire customers, if you want to grow your business, well, you got to go where people are to find them, to put yourself in front of them so that they can hear about you, so they have a chance to learn more and and buy your products, and which is what we want, right? Because we believe in our products, and so we want to put them in front of people so we can help more people, which again, for us in our business, the more people we can serve, the more resources we have to hire more people to make those that service even better. So that's kind of the game here. And so I've gone from not really doing any marketing at all to trying unsuccessfully to hire people, whether in-house or our contractors, consultants, to do marketing. And none of it has really moved the needle for me. And I think part of it is because I wasn't leading it in a proper way. I wasn't fully in. I was like, I just want to focus on the product. Let me hire someone here and like you do the marketing. But it wasn't. I didn't set them up the right way for success. I think sometimes I didn't hire the right people. Sometimes I probably just didn't give them enough time to succeed. Like all kinds of reasons. But lately, I've just gone, look, like for who I am and what I want to become and what I want to achieve business wise, not just with Simplero, but with Body Meal and other products. I need to be really good at marketing. I need to be really, really, really good at marketing, and not just one type of marketing, but a bunch of different strategies, paid and partners and organic and content and whatever, like, books and all kinds of different ways that you can market. So I'm sort of on a mission to just master all of those. Not obviously everything all at once, but instead of asking myself which one strategy should I use, I'm actually going, fuck it, we're going to do them all eventually. So it's just a matter of what's the order and how much are we able to handle at the same time without being overwhelmed and doing things like half-assed and wrong, right? In general, I'm all a huge fan of focus and doing one thing at a time, but it's also sometimes really helpful to just spread out and do a bunch of things all at once and get some experience with them. Like, operate in parallel when you're not 100% sure which is going to work. Because when you try one thing and then it's not really, you're not quite sure how it's going to work, and then you wait to see till you try something else, like, it ends up taking so long, right? You need to find the person and hire them and like go start executing, and then that didn't work out. Was it the person or the strategy? Try another person, another, in like 6 months down the line, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not really sure. Let's try this other strategy. Like, no, 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 no. Like, massive parallel operations. Make sure that you can handle it. That's really, really important, right? We don't want to do crap work. We want to do great work, but operating in parallel when you can, or if you can, is like really powerful. So that is what I am obsessed with these days. I really want to master like everything marketing. And then I'll settle. I know I'll settle with on what's like my preferred way to do marketing at some point. Hey Bryson, I'm hearing your keyboard clack actually. There we go. Yeah, at some point it'll kind of scale back and I'll settle on what I love doing and what really works for me. But I want to taste all of it and really feel it. So with that, guys, I'm going to open up the floor. What are the questions? Bryson, do you have an overview? Beth, do you have an overview? Who's first in line here for some questions? I see Kimberly here. Let's do Kimberly. Amy, you can just hit the call button. Whatever Bryson said before, whenever you're ready. All right.
Okay, well, this is actually perfect because I'm getting to the point every week I'm here and I'm always like, I'm almost ready to launch. I'm almost ready to launch. Well, I'm getting to the point where I am almost ready to launch. And I feel like I'm standing on a cliff and I'm like, wait, I'm not ready. I gotta double check that I'm all strapped into my parachute, and then I'm like, well, maybe I should try a different parachute, and maybe I should try a different cliff. And like, I'm just constantly finding some reason not to jump off the cliff. And I'm like, I think I'm scared that, I kind of wrote down some of my fears. What if no one signs up and then I'm embarrassed because, not that anyone would really know, although I'd probably share it right to everyone. I could have lots of people sign up and fail them in some way where like they just feel like they're not learning anything. I could have some kind of flaw. I don't know. There's so many things that could go wrong, and I'm terrified. But I guess I'm maybe, I don't know exactly what my question is, but I think it's kind of like, could you just help push me off the cliff?
Okay. What would you say to someone in your situation?
I would say, well, try it, write down whatever the failures are and see if they're so bad that, you need to like quit and go work at Starbucks or something. And chances are that Probably won't be, but I mean, that's all you can do is just reflect afterwards.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's great. You're very you're very smart. You're very smart. Jen Parkin has a good point too here in the chat. I just saw it's not a cliff; they're just steps, little steps. So that's a good reframe. Not seeing it as a cliff that you're jumping off of, but just like you're just taking steps, right? You can always just stand still where you are, right? Like you don't have to jump. So what I would say is that um, like if you want to like just do it, right? Just do it. And like that voice, it doesn't really have anything valuable to offer, so just take that first step, just move forward. However, sometimes that voice can be really strong and it helps to have a conversation with it. And so what I like to do is think through or ask it like what exactly, kind of what you were saying. Ask it what what's the worst thing that could happen, and then for each of the things that come up, you ask, what's the likelihood this would happen? You can do a scale of 1 to 10. You can do whatever. Um, and I like, how bad is it if this happens? And
Yeah.
then you can look at mitigation strategies, right? Like you were saying, well, then I can always take a job at Starbucks, right? Like, so if you do that, and you follow the chain of like, and then what, and then what, and then what, eventually you're going to find that you'll be fine, you'll be okay. And it can really help calm the mind to go through all of those steps. I went through it some years ago when I moved to New York for the second time in 13 14, and we were applying for a visa to live here. I'd applied the year before and got denied. Actually, 2 years before, got rejected for this same category of visa. I'd actually applied years and years and years in a row before that, trying to get different category visa. Like really struggled for maybe like 8 years at this point to get a visa. Taking the plunge, moved over here, got an apartment just on a tourist visa, and then filled out the application. And I was terrified. I was really really scared. It was like, what if the visa is denied? And thinking through that, well, I can't stay in the US. Well, then maybe I'd move to London. Okay. Well, and like then I'd live in London. Maybe I'd move back to Copenhagen. Like it wasn't that bad, right? When I thought through it, it's like, okay, it sucks. It's not what I want, but I'll be okay. And then we can figure something else out from there. So just really getting clear and realistic. It's like when there are monsters under the bed that can be just like, oh, overwhelming, like vague. It can be super scary. But once you face it head on and you're like, oh, this is what it is, and you can think through what you want to do, I find that it really takes the air out of it.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. Whatever happens, you're going to know about it. I'm going to tell you. So I might be your first guest to cry on live, your live episode, or I might be super happy, or I could be doing both. I just have no idea. I've never done this before. I've been teaching, in person piano lessons for a long time. I feel very comfortable with it. But as far as what you were saying about doing what you're uncomfortable with and what's unfamiliar and new, this is very unfamiliar and new for me. So we'll see how it goes.
It's amazing. I love it. That's so great. Yeah. And yeah, it's gonna be, well, I was just, it's funny how like you're like, maybe it goes bad and I'll be crying and then I'll be good and I'll be super happy, right? Is that like our mood is being determined by something out there? And that, I mean, that's the real key realization, is that it doesn't have to be that way. I can be totally happy and in Zen bliss no matter what happens, right? There's a famous story of a Chinese man who gets gifted a horse. Are you familiar with the story?
No.
I love the story. So it goes something like this. So he's an old Chinese man. Someone gives him a horse, And then his neighbors are like, "Oh my God, you're so lucky you got a horse." And the old Chinese man says, "Maybe." And then his son rides the horse and he falls down and he breaks his leg. And all the neighbors are like, "Oh my God, that's so terrible." And the old Chinese guy says, "Maybe." And then war breaks out and all the young able-bodied men has to sign up for the army and go to war, but his son has broken his leg so he can't go, and so all the neighbors are like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And the Chinese man says, "Maybe." The idea being, obviously, like, you can never know if anything's good or bad, right?
Yeah.
It's like, but we make up these stories about whether it is or not, and then we let that determine our mood instead of just choosing to be happy. And then, you know, and then things happen, whether, no matter what we feel about them or not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching me even with this crazy delay, but that's good. It's good practice for me to have things not go
All
perfect.
right.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
Doing great.
Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. So great to see you. All right. Hey, Amy, how's it going?
Hi. Nice to meet you, Calvin. I
Great
love
to
your
meet you.
email. Thank you so much for all your inspiration. And I just like love that my CRM is also like my like coaching. It's like, so I just really appreciate it. I love simply I'll tell everyone about it. Anyway, thank
Love
you.
hearing that. My pleasure.
So I guess the thing that I'm currently up against is I'm just like really struggling, like I was sharing in the chat, with not attaching value to the success that I'm making in the world and my own personal success to
Mm-hmm.
how much money I'm bringing in.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, like, for me, it's like a big like origin, my family of origin was all about you make money. And when you make money, then you are successful. And my business, the vulnerable reality is my business just isn't really making money right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I really have it that I'm failing, that I am a failure. And because I'm not making money. Although I'm the clients I do work with are having a big impact, and I can visually see like the impact they're making and the impact I'm making on them. But there's something for me around the fact that, like, I really have it that there's something that I'm doing that is a failure, and until I make the money, that I'm not going to actually be successful. And
Mm-hmm.
I know intellectually, I know that all of that is just a story, and I know all of those things that is not actually the truth, but there's something that's not lining up for me, and I feel like it's going to take down the boat. It doesn't matter how much strategy I put on top of my business, until this
Mm-hmm.
is like dealt with, is like the boat is going to sink. And so, yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like curious, like you said, like, this is the inner stuff. I love going inner. So I'm just like curious if you could help me sort that out a little bit.
Absolutely. Appreciate the question, Amy. I can definitely relate. Been through something very similar. My question would be for you would be, what positive payoff do you get from holding on to that story?
I get to be I get to, or the positive payoff, or like
Hmm.
the payoff, like the payoff.
Well, there's some part of you that gets a payoff
Yeah.
from it,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
That likes that feeling, that likes
Hmm.
staying stuck in that place, or you wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a payoff that I get to be right, that I'm never going to be successful,
Hmm.
that I'm just going
And
to
that
go ahead.
no, and what does that prove?
That proves that I'm a failure and that I suck.
And and so what?
So that I'm just going to end up like my mom driving a school bus,
Okay.
and
And is
that
that
means that I'm not going to make an impact in the world. It means that I'm not going to be able to be generous with my money. It means that I'm, going to have to always live paycheck to paycheck.
is
It means,
that so? If you do that, is it your mom's fault for not teaching you properly?
no, I just think my biggest fear is to be that. It's like,
Uh-huh.
when I was a young kid, I was like, I'm not going to just drive a school bus. Like, I'm going to make a fucking impact in this world.
Uh-huh.
And so because I'm not making money, I feel like I'm like, okay, I keep saying that I'm doing all these good things, and then the finances aren't backing up. So I'm just, why don't I just go drive a school bus?
Hmm.
You know, at least then I'll make the money. And so, I mean,
Right.
your question, like, what's the payoff? Like, what payoff do I get? I guess I just get to like stay stuck, stay
Right.
complaining,
And
stay
what does
like,
that give you?
um, yeah, it's a good question. It gives me, yeah, I don't know. It gives me something. There's something. I know. I see where you're going here. I don't know. What just keeps coming to me is that I just get to keep staying not successful and like
Hmm.
not making it. Like I haven't made it yet.
Hmm. You get to keep being a victim.
Yeah, and a victim. Thank you. Yeah, I huge victim.
Hmm. Which is a very familiar, like it's a very comfortable place to be in many ways. I mean, it's a painful place to be, but it's also comfortable because then it's not our fault.
Right. I don't have to take any accountability.
Hmm. Exactly. What would you do if you did take accountability?
What would I do if I did take accountability for being a victim?
Or for the results that you want?
Hmm. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
How would you act differently if you chose to be fully responsible?
Uh, I also don't know.
Hmm. But yeah, so you get what I'm getting at here, right? You're a victim of your own belief system, of your own mind that says, look, you're a failure, you're never going to be it. And then you're like, oh shit, maybe I don't have. And then you kind of become a victim of that, your own psychology, instead of being like, no. Like, so the way out of being a victim is you choose what you want, and then you figure out what it takes to get there, and then you get moving, right? That's the creator role. What do I want? How do I get there? Let's get going. Let's just do it. And those voices, like, really start to notice, like, whenever those voices come up, you just say thank you. I appreciate your concern. I know you're just trying to help, but I don't need your input right now. I'm focused over here. I'm on a mission. I'm going somewhere, right? Just ignore them, because that's the, like, when you think that they have something valuable to say, you start paying attention to them. You start believing that maybe it's true, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to do that. Like,
Totally.
just shut them down. I used to have that, like, and it was like, oh, but the thought is that I'm a failure. It must be there for a reason. It must be trying to tell me something, that maybe I am a failure. Like, it's no, it's not. It's there for a reason. It's that it came from somewhere, and you've lived with it for so long. Now you're just like, okay, like, you've let it do it. It's staying, and you're just keep doing that.
Yeah, it's very old. Like it feels very old. Like this is
Right.
not a new thing. This is my 40 years of life thing.
Totally. Right. And I mean, personally, I would do some body therapy and whatnot to help work it through the body as well. That helps release it. But you don't need that. You just need to stop paying attention to it, stop feeding it. If you find that it's really, really hard to let it go, figure out what that emotional spot in you is that's committed to going there. Like, it will, that thought produces a feeling in you, and somehow you're addicted to that feeling. So
Mm-hmm.
notice that. And that feeling, under that feeling, is going to be a little girl who needs you to
Mm-hmm.
love her and comfort her and help her grow up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that emotional piece of it.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You bet. My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Really
Yeah.
appreciate
And I'm so familiar with this place. Like, I've lived there so long. Of, like, yeah, being a failure because, like, money, because impact, because all kinds of things. And for me, it was very much like, what I realized was I was keeping myself unsuccessful to get back at my parents
Mm-hmm.
for not raising me how I thought I should have been raised, like not loving me the right way or seeing me, understanding me, or like whatever. Um, and so if I was happy and successful, that would prove that their whatever failings they had didn't really matter. And so in order to prove that they really were wrong, I needed to keep myself unhappy and unsuccessful,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously isn't a very nice place to be, right? And so I was like, I would keep sabotaging myself for
Yeah,
that reason.
for
And it's
sure.
just, yeah, it just needed to stop.
Yeah, that's great. I really resonate with that self-sabotaging piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Yeah. So like I love that my CRM is also my coaching. Yeah. Um, used to do the Thursday emails. Maybe I should get back to those. But now we're doing this instead. And that was one of the things I heard from people a lot too. Like some people were even like, "Hey, I'm still paying for Simplero, even though I don't use it, but I don't want to lose those Thursday emails with like the spiritual insights." That's pretty cool. All right. We had David was writing about like what is making an impact? How is that defined? How would you know you're making an impact? I mean, that's a great point, right? Like what is success? We discussed last week. Um, Success is not a destination. It's actually a feeling. Success is that you feel a certain way. It's a feeling that you have right now or you don't have it. And it's not like, oh, when I reach this goal. It's something that happened for me as well. One thing that I've used a lot to feel bad about myself is my body weight. I've felt like I was fat since I was a kid. I was a bit of a chubby kid, and then I was bullied with that a lot from neighbors, friends, nannies, other people in school, et cetera, et cetera. So I was getting bullied for it so much, and it's still I can easily go to that place of feeling like I'm fat, even though I'm clearly obviously not. But my standard of fat is anything above like an 8-10% body fat percent, very lean. And I would look in the mirror and then I'd make myself wrong for what I look like. And then I realized, oh, like dropping body fat is actually not hard at all. Like you can just like if you stay sup 1,000 uh, calories a day for 3 weeks, you're going to drop a lot of body fat, very effectively. Um, and then you do that a couple times, then you're down to like very, very, very lean. But so it's just a matter of like, are you doing the things that are going to get you to that body weight? And it has no bearing on your worth or your value or whether you're good enough or any of those things. And money is kind of the same thing, right? You just keep doing the things that bring in money, and eventually you're going to get money. And you don't do the things or don't do them effectively, and it's not going to bring in money. And it really isn't rocket science unless we're sabotaging ourselves, unless there's that emotional addiction that requires us to feel a certain way, right? That requires us to feel bad about ourselves. And that's the thing that we want to stop the behavior, and then we want to stop what that emotional need in ourselves to feel that way. I'm looking at the chat here. It's so super cool. John is saying, it's funny, I'm fat, but I think I'm not. And Charles is saying the same thing. It's hilarious. That is so good. Love it. All right, cool. Hey, we got Anna Maria here. Let's do it. Cool. Yeah, me too.
Excited. And you can hear me and see
Yes.
me.
And no delays or anything. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. So first of all, huge fan, huge fan. Love everything about Simplero. It's like it was just so perfect at the right time. Also, what you said to Amy about that victim mentality, like you said it in a way that I heard it in a different way. And so I think it was Kimberly who said she couldn't jump off the cliff, right? And anyone who's done business knows that, where we just hang out on the cliff for a couple years or decades, whatever it might be. And so I jumped, right? Clearly, I've been in business for 10 years. And despite all my getting in the way, I'm succeeding and doing really well. But what I'm noticing lately, and you talked about this before, where we have to have that balance between working in our business and working on our business.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that I get so all consumed by working in it that I'm like, well, yikes, my strategies are there, but they're not getting implemented, things like that. So I wanted to hear from you kind of how you block a week, or what a week looks like, or a month, to make sure that you get in that strategizing time and implementation. Because now I see my victim is like, well, I'm glad I'm doing good, but yikes, I don't want to do too good. Right. And I notice like the poverty mentality, like, well, then I won't be part of the group I always was a part of. So I can make enough, right? But not too much, right? And with inflation, it makes it really great because you don't have to. So now I'm getting pushed.
That's hilarious. And what are your friends doing? Are they, with the inflation, are they making more, or are they at the same level?
I would say, like, I have a lot of friends that are still making a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm really good at what I do and how I put it out there, but I can see that victim mentality. And I see it for me right now there's some structure, there's some scheduling pieces that I could be putting in place, right? Our joke just a little while ago was, this is the first year I started scheduling in a lunch. Mm-hmm. Like, how ridiculous is that, right? Like, I would just try and stuff things in my face in between sessions. Right. So I see it as a scheduling piece. And then I feel like it's all or nothing, right? Like, I'm going to take a whole week and just do strategy. That's not realistic. Right. And then if I block too much time, I lose my focus. If I don't have enough time, then I'm like, you start a million things and you don't get anything done. Right. So I was just curious how maybe you have tackled that.
Yeah. And I love that you're going on the psychology piece of it, because like, if you don't solve that, then like you can do whatever scheduling you want. I'll tell you what I do, honestly, which is not like, I wouldn't say that I'm particularly effective at this. It's what I find doesn't work very well for me is this very structured approach. Is like, I have to work on this here, I have to work on that here, and like scheduling my day in that way. It's just, what works for me is to follow my energy. So when I'm obsessed about something or inspired about something, like, move with that momentum while it's there as much as possible. And then I find that, like, at some point I kind of like hit diminishing returns on my energy there. And then what is the next thing that I'm really inspired about? And I can direct that attention. So like, I could go all product for months, but that's not going to work. So then I intentionally like focus on, listen to, study, think about, like, do things that are going to get me inspired about the marketing stuff, and then run with that inspiration and that energy there. So that's kind of how I approach it. Is I kind of guide my own energy in that way to make sure that I get the high notes done that I need done. I'm also finding that a lot of the times there'll be tasks that I dread. And then once I get into them, once I decide to, like, okay, I'm just going to start the thing. And then once I get into it, I'm enjoying it. It's totally fine. Especially like if it's something that's maybe
we made it up to be.
Right. Exactly. Like recently, one of the things we're investing in is SEO. And so part of that is we've got a report this week of all the technical SEO issues that need to be fixed. Is that fun? No, not necessarily. But what I do is then I make it a product thing, right? So it's like, well, I'm not just going to solve it for us, because our software, website runs on Zemplero, and like everything we do runs on Zemplero. I'm not just going to solve it for us. I'm going to figure out how to solve it for everybody who uses Zemplero. So that makes it more exciting for me. And then some of them I added a checkbox column to the Google sheet that they gave us, so I could check it off as I went through them, right? And then figure out, like, I focus on the solving, like, how do we do this? And then I can delegate the rest to someone else to fix, right? So, yeah.
I like that. I like it because it's a mix of structure and following your own energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like, Yeah, if it's too rigid, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. That's super helpful.
My pleasure. Yeah. All right. I saw we sent out a survey this week about what are your biggest challenges and frustrations with your online business from a mental, psychological, spiritual perspective, from strategy, marketing tactics, that kind of stuff, and from technical. One of the things that came in was someone said, all caps, I don't want to disturb people with emails. I don't want to disturb people with emails. It's funny, guys, it's just an email. It's just an email, right? We all get so many of them. We've been getting them for years. It's fine. Are some people going to be upset? Probably. Can they hit unsubscribe? Absolutely. Are some people going to get upset and write you back and say, you stupid idiot, don't send me all these idiot emails, it's too much? Probably, possibly. If they do, can you just hit the unsubscribe link in the email that they just replied to so you unsubscribe for them? 100%, right? Don't worry about it. Like, just send, like, you can easily send email twice a day and be fine. Like, some people are going to be annoyed. Most people are just going to like read whatever they want and ignore the rest. Most people don't have good systems for their emails. So it's like, if you don't send enough emails, it's like social media kind of thing where, like, if you post on your someone something on Twitter, if people aren't on Twitter at that time to catch it in their timeline, chances are they'll never see it. An email for some people, I would guess for most people, is kind of that way because they're not in control of their inbox. So you send it, and then like, if they didn't see it then, and then a bunch of other emails came, they'll totally miss it. And so just send emails. It's fine. Obviously, we're doing opt-in. We're doing, people can unsubscribe, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. Yeah. John is saying, I got a terrible email today. I was so happy because it shows I'm doing something different with my emails than usual. Yeah, that's right. Like, any person who like is so upset that they would rather write back and harass you than just hit unsubscribe, it's just like not worth worrying about. Like, it's poor, like, have compassion for that person. Don't let it upset you in any way. It really isn't worth it. Yeah. All right, you guys, this was super fun. I love that y'all showed up here. I think we have like over 20 people on here. It was like over 20 most of the time. So, again, I love that you're here and that we get to hang out and share. Keep in mind that your questions are a major contribution to everyone. So I just want to encourage everyone in the future, think about what question you would ask. Even if it's a silly question, it might lead to something really interesting. Even if you think it's a dumb question, it might lead to a really interesting conversation. I feed off of your questions. So the way that if you enjoy the show, the way that you can repay more than anything is come on live and ask your question, and we can have a conversation about that. That's what I love to do more than anything. So really appreciate you all for being here, and huge shout out to everybody who decided to show up here live and ask a question. Do 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 do. All right, I see what Katina is saying. She wants to let us know that since she put her question in 2 weeks ago about making a transformation from one-on-one to more combination of one-on-one and online courses, she has experienced a huge next level step in her personal beliefs and has resulted in a large demand in my new way of doing things. So thank you. That's amazing. Yeah, that's what we're here to do. Like I heard something, credit where credit's due. I heard something Gary Vaynerchuk said. You've probably heard me talk about Gary before. I'm a fan. And he said something. he was giving a talk at a conference, one of those conferences where, people would come on stage and do a talk, and the talk was basically a pitch for a high-end offer. And then people would go to the back of the room to buy that. And there would be people with sales forms and like salespeople selling them that offer that the guy was pitching from stage. And Gary said in his talk, he said, the other guys who were up here on stage before me, they're confused. They think they want your money. I don't want your money. I want you to take what I say and go win, and then send me an email that says that you won. So, and Katrina, when you say that back, when you let me know how that impacted, like that's it. That's the game. That's what I'm here for. We're not here for your money. We're here to help you win, whatever the hell that means for you. And if you then let me know about how you won, that just makes me so much happier. So great stuff. All right, guys, appreciate you all. Super fun. Again, your questions is a major gift to me and everybody else who's on the show, and everybody who gets to watch the content after. So super good. See you guys in a week, and be well, everyone. Have a phenomenal Thursday. Much love to you.